they had these at the yarn shop. They had these at the plant shop. Hi, my name's Mark.
And I'm Ned.
And welcome back to the channel. Today we're sitting down to repot some plants and talk about our upcoming trip to the United Kingdom. So we'll talk about everything from the tourist destinations to the knitting and yarn specific activities we will do during our time in the UK.
I'm excited.
Me too. So let's get into it. Today is officially the 4th of July, the day we're filming here in the United States. So I've dressed in red to represent the 4th.
And I'm in white and blue.
Ned's in white and blue. So that's that. Just wanted to address it. I normally don't wear red and I feel kind of funny, but we're planting and it's really hot in the house.
Yep.
Probably 80, 85 degrees.
Yeah, at least.
Inside. But again, I have a small window unit air conditioner in this craft room. So it's running right now, which is keeping us mostly cool. But it's hard to wear normal clothes, and definitely I can't wear a sweater. So you'll see more sweaters once fall and winter come back.
But I bet you'll be able to wear a lot of knitwear when we're in the UK.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So for our trip, I've talked about this a little bit, but we're leaving very soon for a pretty long stay in the United Kingdom. And all of this starts with you traveling to Germany for a little bit of time. So Ned leaves this weekend, and where are you going in Germany?
I'm going to Leipzig, which is about an hour south of Berlin, and it's in former East Germany. And it's not the hometown, but it's the adopted hometown of Johann Sebastian Bach, one of the composers that we love to sing a lot of his music. And I'll be competing in the International Bach competition that happens there once every 3 years. It's like the Olympics, I feel like.
Yeah, the Olympics of Bach singing.
Yeah.
So Ned's going there for his competition, and you'll also get, hopefully, a little bit of time to sightsee.
I think so, yeah.
And at least enjoy being in the city that you're staying in, even if you can't travel around Germany too much. And then after that, with my mother, I'll fly to the United Kingdom, and Ned will train or fly.
I'm going to fly to the UK and then take the train to where you guys will be.
To meet us. And we're going to be in Durham for about a week, singing with a choir, a church choir from Tennessee. So we'll be there for the week, kind of staying put. We won't do a whole lot of sightseeing outside of Durham, but we'll be singing services every day at the cathedral, rehearsing with the choir. And I think we have little day trips. We're going to York to hear a service. We're going to
Lindisfarne.
I don't know
if I said that right.
So we have a little bit of sightseeing during that week, but mostly we stay put singing with the cathedral choir.
Right.
And then after that starts our big trip. So it begins with a week of us showing my mom and dad around parts of Scotland and back into England. And we'll just detail the trip, and I'm going to start getting plant stuff out.
Yeah. The first thing we're going to do after we leave Durham is take Mark's parents to Edinburgh. I've never been there. Have you been there before?
I have, just for a day.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. And we're just going to be there for a day. We'll probably do a little bit of sightseeing. We're doing this leather bag making workshop that we saw on TikTok, and I'm excited about that. And then we're going to this thing that I have always wanted to see. It's called the Edinburgh Royal Military Tattoo, and it's this huge military band show that they do every year. And I guess it's mainly bands from the British Armed Forces, but I think there are some other countries represented. They do this huge music and dance and cultural show, and it looks like it's gonna be really cool. They're fireworks, really fun. And then after that, we're gonna take the train up into the Highlands, specifically to a little town called Fort William, which is known for having the highest peak in Great Britain, called Ben Nevis. And we're gonna see some seals, hopefully. There's a boat tour we're doing. And then we're gonna go on the Harry Potter train. You should talk about that, because I don't know as much about Harry Potter as you do.
So this leads us to our steam train journey in Scotland, where we'll go through the Scottish Highlands on the steam train. It's sort of an all-day ride. You ride on the train for several hours. You're dropped off at a town where you can have lunch, you can walk around, stretch your legs. Then you get back on the train and you go home to point A. So the whole point of the experience is to be on the steam train and see, hopefully, what is very picturesque parts of the country. And I'm not sure exactly what our seating arrangement will be like, but we love to play cards. We like to play cards with my mom as well. So I'm sure we'll have decks of cards with us. I'll have some knitting projects. We might have some books. And depending on the weather, if it's not the clearest day and you don't need to stare out the window the whole time, we might play games. We might do a bit of reading. But if it's a beautiful day and we have a lot of visibility, I think we'll just be glued to the windows enjoying that.
Yeah. And the reason I said the Harry Potter train is because apparently this route is what they used for the Hogwarts Express in the movies.
For some of those above head shots.
Yeah, so it'll be really cool to see this. Having just seen the movies for the first time, I'm very excited to kind of get to experience it firsthand.
Yeah.
Should we take a break and talk about plants for a minute?
Yeah. So I know this is my crafting knitting channel, but hopefully you'll bear with for the day to see some plants. So in the room, obviously I have some plants. I've got the Monstera in the corner, which lives in a pot that I got out of the dumpster at my old apartment complex. So I got the pot out of the dumpster at my old apartment complex, and it's covered with sticker residue, it's cracked, and it can really only face one direction. So the direction that it's facing right now is the only acceptable way you can see it. If I turn it at all, you see the really ugly parts of the pot. So I've thought about painting it or covering it in something. I could crochet something to go around it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Which would be fun. But I know being in terracotta, it drinks so much of the water. The water does not hold into the plant too well.
Okay.
So I'd rather put it into a ceramic pot or a plastic pot, really anything else. But it's a big plant, so I need a big pot. And I didn't find anything at our local plant store that was big enough. So I think I'll need to look maybe like a big box store in the future. So maybe later in the summer, I'll repot. But we've got that plant. Behind us, I don't know what these are called, but we have this really beautiful, healthy plant that Megan gave me just a year ago for my birthday, and it's grown so much. And I'm leaving it alone. It's happy. It's long, so I might start trailing the vines across the shelves somehow. Then I recently brought this little plant into the room, and it's been sitting behind me on the shelf. And it's a cutting from this plant. And let's see if I can show you on the above head too. I don't know where to put it. Here's the bigger, and then here's the smaller, and they're both doing really well. The larger plant, the original plant, was just so tall that it had no more room to grow. It was hitting the ceiling on another bookcase in another room. So I just cut off the top of it and planted it here, and it's really happy.
The baby's got some new growth coming in.
Yeah. And I like the pot. I think it's pretty. So this is happy. This is happy. I just wanted to show you those. And then the other plant that lives in this room is a fiddle leaf fig. And you can see it's pretty tall. And I got this when it was a baby. It had 3 leaves, and it was about this tall, just where my hand is. And it's grown quite a bit. I know fiddle leaf figs can be tricky. They like to be agitated. I don't really know how much light they need, but this room we're in gets a lot of natural light.
Yeah, especially in the morning.
Other than that, we don't have lights on in this room. There are no grow lights. The lights behind me on the bookcase, I only turn on when I'm filming, which is, I don't know, for like 3 or 4 hours each week. So the lights aren't on in this room often, but I guess it gets enough natural light, so it's happy.
Do you think if this got big enough, it would have figs on it?
I don't know. I don't know if that's how it works or not. If you know, tell us. Yeah. But I've seen fiddle leaf figs that are huge. They look really like trees, and they're in enormous pots on the floor, and they go ceiling height. So it just needs, I assume it needs a bigger pot. So I have something a little bit bigger that we'll transfer it to today.
That's pretty.
But I'm nervous. I hope we don't kill it or shock it too much. It's never been repotted, but it's grown so much, I just think it's time. So that's one of our tasks, to repot the fiddle leaf fig. Another task is to take some cuttings from the Monstera and plant them in a smaller pot. The Monstera is just out of control. I'll put a little extra video footage in here to show that it's really scrambly. It has a moss pole that's supposed to help it sort of anchor its height. And I trimmed it last summer. So it got a big haircut last year, but again, it's just too big for the room. We really don't have anywhere else to put it. There aren't many places we can put these plants that are away from the cats. I know some people have told me in the comments, be careful with the plants because they're toxic. And the cats aren't allowed in here on their own. They can only come in with supervision. So there's not an opportunity for them to eat the plants. So this is the only room where we can really put things. There's another bookcase in the office where very high up we have some plants because the cats haven't figured out how to get up there. But anything big really has to be here. So we're going to give it a haircut, try to replant it. So just a couple things to plant. The last thing is that I have a couple of small vases that I want to put clippings in and see if they'll grow decently just in water. Yeah. I think that'd be pretty. And then the very last thing, you have the cutting somewhere here.
Oh, it's over there.
We have a plant that lives in the upstairs bathroom. I'll put another clip of footage in here. We repotted it last year and it broke as we repotted it. Which was sad. It was like 20 feet long and it snapped off at the base. So I cut it into like 6 pieces, about 3 or 4 feet in length each. And I just put them all into, I think I put them straight into soil and they grew. So I'll put more footage in here of the baby of that plant. So the original plant is in the disco ball pot and it doesn't grow very much. I don't think it's happy. The babies from that plant are growing so much.
Yeah.
So this piece is from the original plant and it broke off 2 days ago. It's very sad. Just snapped off in my hand. And so I'm going to try to plant that into one of these small jars that we have. And that's it. That's the goal for today. About once a year, we check in on our plants and we buy a couple of new pots. We split up the plants we already have. Maybe we get a new plant. But like I said, we don't have a lot of space for it. So that's that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, while you're getting ready, should I keep talking about our trip?
Yeah. So one thing for the trip, a big reason that we are excited to go is to do yarn-related and fiber-related activities.
Yeah.
So the first week we're singing, and we don't have a lot of free time. The second week we're with my parents, and again, we don't have a lot of free time. We've structured that time with them. So then after that, which we'll get to, will be the time for yarn activities.
Yeah.
So finishing up the trip with my parents.
Right. So after we do our big Harry Potter steam train adventure, we actually are taking an overnight train, which I think will be kind of cool. I hope that your parents like sleeping in bunk beds for a night, but it's only a night, so it should be fine. And that's taking us all the way down to London. So then we'll spend, I think, 3 days in London. We're going to have 1 day as a day trip. We're thinking maybe going to Cambridge to see the university and to do some punting in a boat on the river. Mark likes to do that. And then we'll send Jeff and Susan on their merry way back to Tennessee, and then we'll have our big adventure. And the first part of it, this is also, I should say, this is also going to be our honeymoon. So we're excited to just be able to celebrate that. The first big part of it is we are going to the Shetland Islands, which are about like 200 miles north of the Scottish mainland.
Something like that.
Something like that. It feels like it's going to be like going to the end of the world.
And I should say, sorry to interrupt, we're going because one of my very good friends, Peg, who is a master knitter, a master teacher of all things fiber here in northeastern Ohio, she's taken a couple of trips to the Shetland Islands before. And when we were talking at the yarn shop a few weeks ago, she asked, are you going to Shetland? Because we have a lot of free time on this trip. We have weeks we're trying to fill with activities. And I said, well, we could, because in my head I thought, how difficult can it be to get to Shetland?
It's difficult.
Because it's in Scotland. We can just take the train and get there, right? In a couple hours. So then I look it up on a map and I see that it is so far away from the mainland, just floating in the sea, just a little dot on the map. And then I looked up flights. She mentioned you can fly from Edinburgh, and I thought, okay, we'll be in Edinburgh, so I know we can take the train there pretty easily. And the flights round trip, when I looked, were something like $800 a person, which is a big plane ticket to go 2 places in the same country. I mean, in the United States, it's a very spread out country, and so flying from, Miami to the Pacific Northwest or the East Coast to the West Coast, those are big flights, and I understand that they're expensive because you're covering so many hundreds or thousands of miles.
But I don't even think they're that expensive.
But to get from Scotland to Scotland was well above $500 per person. And I thought, okay, I don't know that we can afford to tack that on. I was just thinking we'll buy a train ticket and get there or take the bus. not even realizing that it's part of this group of islands.
But we did find out that there is a ferry you can take, and it goes overnight, and it seems like an actual ship. Like when I think of a ferry, I grew up in New England where you take ferries to get a lot of places pretty regularly, and it's just like a boat that you drive onto, and that's about it. But this seems like almost like a cruise ship. Like there are cabins, and there's...
I think it's like a small cruise ship.
Yeah. So we are doing that, and I think that'll be kind of fun.
I think so too.
A new adventure for us. And then when we're in Shetland, we've rented a beautiful Airbnb that is in a really remote part of the biggest island, and it's on an area called Westborough. If any of you are from Shetland, I hope you'll tell us if we're saying these things
is
right.
in Shetland, well, let us know who you are, because it'd be great to be able to run into you.
Yeah. And we're going to rent a car, so we'll get to drive around. And I know that you said that there are 2 yarn producers that you want to visit.
There's, of course, Jameson and Smith.
Of course.
Of course. And so that's our big yarn destination for Shetland.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to follow the advice of my friend Peg, which is to have my pattern picked and possibly have my color palette already narrowed down, or a few palette options. And then I will go into Jameson Smith, where they have hundreds of color options, and I can see them in person and arrange them in person and try to pick my perfect combination for a Fair Isle sweater or sweater vest or cardigan.
I'm curious to know, as someone who's not a yarn person, do they have hundreds of varieties because it's all different types of yarn, like worsted, etc., or is it just that many colors and it's all one type? Wow.
So they have that many colors of sweater weight yarn.
Okay.
And it's really one of the only things like it in the world.
Yeah.
And they, of course, use Shetland wool, so you're getting a product that's very local to Shetland. It's coming from the sheep that live there. I can't remember exactly how long Jameson Smith has been around, but I want to say since like 1930.
Okay.
I'll put something on the screen if that's way off. But it's exciting that you can choose from this huge color palette. And what they're known for is, of course, this Fair Isle, which is one of the islands in the Shetlands, the southernmost, tradition of knitting and color work. So that's going to be my souvenir. And Peg also recommended that I choose my main color, or figure out what my main color is going to be while I'm there, and purchase that as a cone, which I can get through sellers in the United States, and then get my contrast colors, which I need less of, in person. Otherwise, I would have so much yarn to try to bring back.
How much yarn is on a cone?
On a cone, I want to say at least 2,000 yards.
Oh my God.
2,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah, maybe 1,500 yards. It's a lot of yarn. Yeah. So anyway, that's the big destination there. And then I know there are also, there's like a knitting museum or a textile museum. There are quite a few things on the islands that have to do with the history of fiber arts.
Yeah.
And so I'm just excited to see some of that. And because our trip is so long, our total trip in the UK is just shy of 2 months. We're going to go to a lot of different shops and a lot of different towns. And so we have to pack pretty light, and we can't bring too much back. Yeah. So that's the shame. I mean, I wish I could go to every shop and get souvenir yarn, but I know mostly I'll just be window shopping and hopefully meeting people and making memories, sort of soaking in the things that I see, but I'm not going to be able to buy stuff and bring everything home. So one of the guarantees is that I will buy my contrast colors from Jameson Smith in Shetland.
Yeah, that's really cool. So after Shetland, we kind of have some unstructured time where we're going to come back to the mainland UK, and we're just going to work our way south. We have a few days in between before our next planned destination. And one of the things that I know you have been wanting to do is this I-7, like almost like a yarn tour.
Yeah.
But it goes on all the time, I guess.
Well, I think it goes for a few years.
Okay.
I actually have the passport in one of those white drawers. Try the third or fourth drawer down. So this is the passport. It's like a real passport book called I Knit 7. and it's really, really beautiful on the inside. It's got drawings, illustrations for each shop that participates. So pretty. So it gives you the address, it gives you the information about each shop, and I think this yarn tour is running for something like 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And if you go to every shop that participates in this in the tour, and I think it's like if you go to every shop within a 12-month period, you get gift certificates, you get coupons back.
That's exciting.
Yeah, if you spend money at every shop, then you're given, I forget what it is, but it's some sort of incentive. And the point of all of these yarn crawls is to get you to go to new shops and experience things that are sort of destinations for you. We do a yarn crawl here in Northeastern Ohio where we have something like 15 shops that participate. And the people that go, I mean, the point of going is that you have an excuse to go to a yarn shop, like you need one, but you have another excuse to go because you're going as part of the tour or the crawl. And it really does encourage people to go to a shop that they otherwise wouldn't think to try.
Yeah.
If you have a local shop that you're really happy with, why do you need to drive further away to go to another shop? So this is an excuse to do that, and you never know what you'll find.
Yeah.
So typically there are raffles and incentives to make a purchase so that you're entered into a drawing or you're given some sort of gift in return.
One of them is in a really random remote location. So I'm curious to know kind of how they got into that, because a lot of the rest are in bigger cities.
Yeah, there are a couple in London. There's one in Edinburgh.
One in Dublin.
One in Dublin, one in Bath.
Yeah.
And then the other, I really don't recognize the towns around it. I'll put it on the screen here. So it's just interesting, but it is a good excuse to get people to go to all the shops and broaden their own community.
Yeah.
All right, first plant is done. I think that's a really pretty pot. I've got my sticker on it. You can see how much I paid. And all of these supplies, the pots and the bag of potting mix, came from our local plant shop, the Wicked Plant Company, Wicked Plant Co.
I love it there.
Mayfield
so
Heights.
cool.
It's a really pretty shop, and they style their plants so beautifully. So I like to just walk through and see the charms and the macrame and things that they'll put alongside vining plants and all sorts of things.
It actually reminds me a lot of Around the Table, not in what they sell, but in the kind of the structure where you can go and get help from the people there, and you can repot stuff there. And it's something that I've never seen at another plant store.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah. It looks good.
Yeah. So after we get all this stuff done, we'll come back through and we'll water everything, and hopefully it'll stay happy. Hopefully it won't die.
Yeah.
Would you mind setting this back in its spot? Yep. A plant that I didn't talk about before is this one, which also lives in our office. This was a cutting from a plant. I took a plant class with my friend Megan, who got me the plant behind us. And in our plant class, we learned about propagating plants and just general care for houseplants. And they had a lot of hands-on demonstrations so that we could propagate things ourselves or practice repotting, practice sort of massaging the roots and working out issues. So this was just a sample cutting, which I put in this rainbow, it's like pastel rainbow pot. And it's done so well. It's so happy. And I like the way it really spills out and it looks beautiful on the bookcase. Yeah. So I just wanted to showcase that as well. I'm going to keep it in front of us because it's pretty.
Do you want to repot it or no?
No. I think it's happy.
Good.
I'll leave it for another year and then see.
Okay.
Next up, I'm going to plant the broken piece of this in this little mason jar. It doesn't drain, and I know there are lots of opinions about all of your plants should be in something that drains, or people that say no, they shouldn't. They should be in things that don't drain. I have a mixture. I have pots that drain and pots that don't, and in both cases, the plants are happy. Yeah. They're thriving, so I'm going to do it.
And I imagine it won't be in there for very long, because once it gets bigger, it'll
once it gets bigger, we might repot it again. So back to our adventure, we talked about the yarn tour, and so we'll plan to go to all of the shops. We'll visit the ones in Scotland, in London, Bath, the more remote part of England, which I put up on the screen, and
Dublin at the
Dublin
end.
at the very end of our trip.
Yeah.
So back to our adventuring.
So we're working our way south and going from the farthest northern point of the UK to basically the southern. We'll end up in the county of Cornwall, which I'm really excited about. It's supposed to be a subtropical climate, and there's lots of beaches, and I love the ocean.
Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, from Pirates of Penzance. So we'll be there. We're going to be in the area of St. Ives, which looks to be beautiful. We found a cute bed and breakfast that has great reviews, and we're excited about it. And it just looks like it'll be a nice place to unwind. I don't know what the yarn scene is like there, but we'll I'm sure we'll find something. And if not, we'll find other things to do.
Well, yeah, and part of the yarn activities of the trip are to knit and crochet to take my projects. So that's another part of this whole thing. You leave this weekend, so you've decided what you're taking.
Yeah.
But you're not going to knit on the trip.
No, because I don't do that. But I am going to read. I've got some books lined up. This is my year of nonfiction. I, for some reason, just kind of started getting interested in nonfiction books. I just finished a great book called The Palace. Oh, that looks nice.
That's
I
cute.
like it in there.
Very cute. Hopefully it'll live.
I just finished a book called The Palace, which is a really fun history of Hampton Court Palace in London to get me in the mood for this trip. And while we're away, I have a couple biographies I want to read. One is the biography of Johann Sebastian Bach by the conductor John Eliot Gardner. And another one is a biography of Handel from the time when he was living in London. By
Handel in London.
Handel in London, yes. Really apt title. By the conductor Jane Glover. So those will be some interesting books to read, especially while we're traveling to these places where these people lived. So I'll have my things to do and you'll have your things to do.
So true. We had to film that part 3 times.
I was loud.
It's the little things, Yes, so we end up in Cornwall.
Yep.
So it's way up, yep. I was once in a production of the Pirates of Penzance. I had a great time.
You're the star.
So I'm excited. I was Frederick, the slave of duty. And I'm excited to go to Penzance. So we have rail passes so that we can ride the trains as much as we want for 32 days, which I'm thrilled about. It costs like $1 million, but then you just get on the train whenever. You can take as many train trips as you want, and you never pay.
Yeah.
Which is great. So,
which at first I didn't really see the value of that, but then Mark told me how much a regular train
tickets can be
wild.
expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a car and you travel by train, then it makes sense because you're not paying for your car or your gas or your insurance. But as tourists who are paying for all of our stuff back home and then just paying more to be on a trip, it seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we're excited to have our rail passes and be able to use the train as much as possible. So while we're staying in Cornwall for a few days, we'll take the train daily to go, to nearby towns, to do day trips, go somewhere for lunch. And I'm excited about that.
If you have any recommendations of places to visit in Cornwall, let us know, because I feel like that's the part we're least familiar with.
Yeah, we don't know it as well,
Yeah.
for sure. So my next task here is to cut some clippings of the Monstera and then pot them here. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully they all live. So I'm going to get some cuttings and then I'll be back to arrange them and hopefully get them to stay. And while I'm saying all of that, they had these at the yarn shop. They had these at the plant shop. And I think they're really pretty. They just pop into your pot. And then your vining plants or climbers like a Monstera can hold on to this.
Clever.
Which I think is really attractive. I mentioned I have a moss pole in the larger Monstera behind me, but it hasn't really done too much. You can also connect these in the future if it's growing even taller.
Okay.
You can band them together and just have it grow all the way. So I have 2 different sizes. So depending on how long or tall my Monstera cuttings are, I'll decide what I need. All right, so we made our cuttings, and I cut below the node so that it can grow happily. So we'll see what happens here. But back to the trip. I mentioned this before. I have to decide what I can take. You've already packed because you're leaving this weekend, and then you told your story about books. As a knitter, it's going to be challenging to decide what I can take space and weight wise, and also what I would actually work on the trip.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to take projects that I won't touch and then I'm just lugging them around for weeks. So I haven't quite made up my mind. I have some options and I'm going to put them on screen. And I would love for you to vote. I'm getting some votes from people I know in person, and I'd love to get some votes here. So in the comments below, give me your selection of what you think I would stay most focused on, what would lend itself to being a good travel project, something I could do while on the train, something I could do while talking every once in a while. I mean, I'm not just going to be isolated knitting all day. There might be some days where we just stay in and I want to work on a project. But I think they need to be flexible enough that the pattern can be mostly memorized or glanced at, and it also needs to be something that doesn't take up all of my space.
Are you going to bring more than one, or probably just one?
Yes, I'll bring more than one because we'll be there for 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a lot of time on a train.
Yeah.
And a lot of time just during the day. You know, you wake up early, you want to do something before before bedtime as you're winding down. So I want to have projects. Okay, option one, which we'll call option A, is Christmas stockings. And this is number 9 Christmas Birds stocking by Birdsong Designs. I think it's really beautiful. I love the look of it. I love that it looks vintage, but very, very classy. And I have picked out the yarns that I would use and the colors that I would use. So I could pick that up. I could get started before I go. I like it because it's small. And I could also take enough yarn that I could do both of our stockings if I whizzed through the pattern. So that's option A. So if that's one of your votes, you know, vote for option A in the comments. The next option is a sweater. It's called the Kerr sweater, Kerr, by Rebecca Clow. And this sweater I would do out of alpaca. I have some navy alpaca yarn, and I would probably pair it with either like an ivory or a tan. So I have the base color and could get the contrast color from my local shop this week. And the reason I like this idea is because the alpaca is lightweight and doesn't take up near as much space in my suitcase as worsted weight wool. This is a DK weight alpaca that I would use for this sweater. So this is option B. I also like this option because part of the sweater is just knit in the round without any special color work or pattern. And then of course you have the color work section for the midsection and the sleeves. So I think it would keep me interested, but there's plenty that I could do that's like easy TV knitting.
I like how that one is kind of like Fair Isle-esque.
Yeah, I feel like I also should take a couple things that include color work because we'll be, you know, in Shetland.
Yeah.
So while neither the stocking or this sweater are Fair Isle, they have that idea. And I thought about working on a Fair Isle sweater during the trip, but I want to buy my yarn from Shetland.
Will you pick out that pattern before we go?
Yes, I've narrowed down those patterns. So that'll probably be a separate video that I'll get my Fair Isle votes in. The next project is the Oban sweater by Thea Coleman of Baby Cocktails. I love Thea Coleman. I think I'm doing my fourth or fifth pattern of hers right now, the Bee's Knees cardigan. And I love the look of this sweater. I have the yarn for this sweater right behind me on the shelf. It's wound already. And I broke my rule of not winding until I'm really ready to start a pattern. I thought I was going to start this a couple of months ago, but I didn't. But I've wound the yarn. It's wound pretty loosely, so I think it's fine. It's not gonna ruin the yarn. But I would need to take 4 of these 150 gram cakes with me, which that's taking up a pretty good amount of space in a suitcase.
Are they heavy?
They're not heavy.
Okay.
And this sweater is very involved with all the cables, so that's the first reason I thought of taking it, because this could be my one sweater I take, and then I take a Christmas stocking, and that should be plenty of knitting for the whole trip. So I'm open to it. So this is option C. Are we on C?
Yeah, we'll see.
And of course, I have the yarn ready to go. The next option I think I've eliminated so far. This is the Diana pullover by Sari Nordlund. I know she has a great YouTube channel here. It's a beautiful design, and I might do it in the future. I haven't decided what yarn I would want to use for it, and I also am not sold on the raglan. If you watched my video of different sweater types and sweater construction, you'll see that I talk about how I don't love the feel of a raglan sweater, and I don't love the fit and look on me.
Is that the one with the dropped shoulders?
No, that's the colorful
Oh,
right
okay.
behind this.
Oh, okay.
I just don't like the way it pulls on my chest. So I've eliminated this for now, but I might come back to it for a future project because I think it's really, really striking. Next is the Mount Auburn cardigan. I talked about this in my, I think, wish list of projects to do this year. I would do it in a color very similar to the example photo here.
A handsome model.
I know, I talked about that in the
Yeah,
other
I
video.
know.
He's so handsome. The only reason I hesitate on this is because I would need, I think, more yarn than I would need for the Oban sweater. So it's going to be a lot of worsted weight wool in my suitcase. But the whole thing being textured, I think it would occupy me for the whole trip.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's option D. We're not voting on the
Right.
Diana pullover because I've already eliminated it for now. So that's A, B, C, and D. I tried to think of patterns that I would want to start soon and that I would enjoy working on. Those are the ones that came to mind for now.
Can I tell you my votes?
Yeah, tell us your votes.
Mine would be A, because I think they're beautiful stockings. And B, because I feel like it's got enough stuff going on to keep you occupied. However, I know you're going to be wanting to look out the window a lot, and I feel like all the sections where it's just plain, then you can knit without being distracted.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I do think that's less yarn to take. So A and B are your votes. Let me know your votes, and let me know if you have a pattern that you think would be my perfect travel pattern that I should do, with my criteria being not too much space taken up in the suitcase and not so involved that I have to stare at my pattern or my chart every stitch.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at memorizing patterns, so if it's color work, if it's texture or cables, that's fine. I just don't want something that is as complex as Fair Isle for this trip. So let me know. Let me know your votes, and let me know if you have other suggestions that you think would really make me happy to knit while I'm on the trip. Okay, so back to repotting this. They're just so tall. I wish they weren't as tall.
Well,
But I can't cut them down because I have to
No.
cut below the node.
will one of the hoop things help?
Yeah, I gotta affix it to a hoop. Here's the shorter.
That seems helpful.
Yeah, I can use some of my sort of plant-friendly twist ties. Hold on to it. Okay, so finishing up our trip plans, we left you in Cornwall.
Yep.
Once we finished our sort of seaside adventuring, we'll be going to Bath briefly.
And we'll check in with one of the stores from that tour.
Exactly, so that's our reason of going to Bath.
Yeah.
And then I just can't find a place. I guess it doesn't matter. You know what I look like. So we'll go to Bath briefly. And then after that, I'll be making my return to Hereford, where I used to live, where I learned to knit. And we'll be staying in Hereford with a good friend of ours. And we'll be there for about a week and a half. And that time is fairly unstructured. I know we'll use a lot of it to practice and prepare for our competition in London. And we'll take some trips into Wales. There are some of you who watch that might live on the western side of England or in Wales that we would love to be able to visit and see. So we're interested in going on hikes. We're interested in seeing animals, seeing the countryside, just enjoying some free time there.
I'm so excited to see where you used to live. I've been to Hereford before, but it was long time ago when I was a kid on a choir trip. But I'm really excited to see all the places you like to go to and meet your friends. It'll be really fun.
It'll be fun. There are a lot of friends I still have in that area, so I know our time will feel really vibrant, which is nice. I think the whole trip is a good balance of time for just the two of us when we're in more remote areas, and then other moments that will be very full, very busy, like the trip with our parents, the trip in Hereford, our time in London. I think all of that will feel exhausting in a good way. But the times in between will be nice because it will be much more relaxed and unstructured.
So Mark mentioned that we're preparing for a competition. So this is another one, and we're actually doing it together. We are competing in the Wigmore Hall International Art Song Competition as a duo, as a team. So Mark will be playing piano and I'll be singing. And I think that'll be really special. I mean, whatever happens with it, it's just going to be special to be on such a famous stage together, getting to perform together. And it's music that we picked out together and it's special to us. And I think it'll be really fun. If you're in London in early September and you want to come hear us at Wigmore Hall, we'll be there. Hopefully for more than one round.
So we've competed in the first round, which is how we were invited to London. And there are technically 3 rounds remaining. Round 2 that we'll do when we arrive to London. If we pass through that round, we have round 3, the semifinals, and then the people that pass through round 3 get to compete in the finals, which is like a recital-style concert with a panel of judges and an audience. So whether or not we make it all the way to the finals, they give us a place to stay in London, so we will cheer ourselves up by being happy tourists, doing something to feel a little bit better about losing.
I think we're trying to go in with low expectations, which is how I go into pretty much everything.
It can be hard. It can be hard to compete. It can be hard to subject yourself to so much feedback because singing is subjective. And music and art. So many art forms are absolutely subjective. For anyone to say this is better than that, or you prefer this over that. So we're going to try to do our best, and we're excited about it. We're excited to obviously share all sorts of elements from the trip with you. We'll take all sorts of videos. Who knows what we'll end up doing on the trip, but if it's anything fun worth sharing, we'll try to get a little bit of footage and sit down and talk about it. And then once we get to the competition, hopefully that will all go swimmingly and we'll have good stories for you.
Oh, and we'll get to stop in Dublin on the way home.
So then after that, after our week in London, we will fly home via Dublin. So there's a direct flight from Dublin to Cleveland, which is great. Amazing. Random, but great. So we decided that will be our trip home so we can see one more yarn shop and complete the I Knit 7 yarn tour. And we don't have much time in Dublin. I think we're there for like
2 days.
2 days. So it'll be just enough time to go to the shop, have a meal, see a couple sites, and then repack to get everything home. Okay, so here's our Monstera cuttings in their pot. I think the pot is really pretty. I've got the hoop in there with it. And I don't know.
We'll see.
They seem unruly, and I don't really know how to train them to grow in a more uniform way.
Can you tie it to the hoop, or is that not good?
I'll tie it to the hoop, and then I have another hoop that could come up taller. So as it continues to grow, you can just keep affixing the branches and leaves to the hoops like you would a moss pole. So we'll water everything, find places for everything, and then I'll come back through with some twist ties or my plant wire and affix that. I think that's it. We wanted to come on, talk about the trip, talk about what's going to be happening for the next couple of months, and share those project ideas, just talk about everything that's coming. So let me know in the comments which projects you think would be the best combination of things to take. Let me know if you have other ideas, and let us know, please, 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 if you live in any of these places that we'll be going to, or if you've been there on trips and you have great recommendations of things to do.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Thanks so much for being here with us. Let me grab Gus for the farewell.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we brought these two cuties to say goodbye. Ned has the birthday Boy Scout. Today is officially his birthday.
You say hi, everybody. Say hi.
And then we've got his best friend Gus here. Oh, he's hidden by the plant. Anyway, sweetest boys around. Right, guys?
Right.
So thanks for being here with us. I hope that you stuck around for the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll be excited to spend more time with you in the future. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting to you, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.
Take care.
Bye.